Etz Chaim, the tree of life, gate 18 of 50. Sha'ar ha-Tzelem, the gate of the image. Gate 17 map the demonic counterstructure, the Kelipot and the Sitra Achra, that mirror and invert the holy world. Gate 18 now returns to the holy side, addressing one of the most subtle and distinctive doctrines in all of Lurianic Kabbalah, the Tzelem, the image, the soul's intermediate vehicle. Between the 5 soul levels we received in Gate 15 and the physical body of flesh and blood, there is something else, something neither soul nor body but the bridge between them. The Tzelem is the body's spiritual mold, a luminous, immaterial form impressed upon the soul by the Sefirot of the worlds, through which it descends into incarnation. It is the soul's working surface in the world, the vehicle through which it operates in sleep, dream, prophecy, death, and resurrection. The doctrine takes its primary anchors from 2 scriptural verses, both of which name the Tzelem explicitly. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, "Let us make man b'tzelmenu, in our image, after our likeness." Psalm 39, verse 7, "Ach b'tzelem yithalekh, surely a man walks about as a tzelem, a shadow form, a phantom image." In the Lurianic reading, these are not metaphors, they are precise technical statements. The Tzelem is the actual luminous form impressed upon the soul. The soul's movement through life, including its movements during sleep, is a movement of and through the Tzelem. 10 chapters unfold the doctrine. The scriptural etymology, the Tzelem is Sephirotic mold formed during the soul's descent. The 3 grades of Tzelem corresponding to Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. The Tzelem's physical relationship to the body, its nocturnal behavior in sleep, dreams and prophecy as activities of the Tzelem at different levels, the aura as visible manifestation of the Tzelem, death and the dissolution of the Tzelem, and the doctrine of resurrection, in which the Tzelem serves as the template from which the body will one day be rebuilt. The word Tzelem comes from a root meaning shadow, shadow form, phantom. It is not the word for body. It is not the word for soul. It names something between, a luminous form that is real but not material, structured but not physical, the soul's shadow cast into the world of flesh. 2 scriptural verses anchor the doctrine. The first is Genesis 1, verse 26, where the divine voice declares the intention to create the human being. "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. B'tzelmenu kidemutenu." The verse pairs 2 words, Tzelem, image, and demut, likeness. In the Lurianic reading, these are not synonyms. Tzelem names the outer luminous form, the mold of the Sefirot impressed upon the soul during its descent through the 4 worlds. Demut names the inner divine likeness, the deeper resemblance to the divine that is the soul's essential nature. Nase Adam b'tzelmenu kidemutenu, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. The second verse is Psalm 39, verse 7. Ach b'tzelem yithalekh ish. Surely a man walks about as a tzelem. The psalm uses the word in its precise technical sense. The human being is not a body that contains a soul, but a soul that walks about wearing a tzelem. The body is real, but the body is not the agent. The agent is the soul. The tzelem is what the soul wears as it moves through the world. Tzelem is neither body nor soul. It is the intermediate vehicle. Formed from the Sefirot of the worlds, the soul passed through to incarnate. The outer aspect is Tzelem. The inner is demut. The body, in the Lurianic teaching, is formed around the Tzelem as a sheath is formed around a mold. The physical form is the consequence of the spiritual form, not the other way around. The Tzelem is formed during the soul's descent into incarnation. As the soul descends from its supernal origin to enter the body, it passes through the 4 worlds of Atzilut, Beria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. At each world it encounters the Sefirot of that world, and the Sefirot impress their form upon it. Like a seal in wax, the Lurianic tradition teaches, leaving the impression of their specific configuration as the soul moves through. Atzilut imprints the Chaya Tzelem, the highest layer. Beriah imprints the Neshama Tzelem. Yetzirah imprints the Ruach Tzelem. Asiyah imprints the Nefesh Tzelem. The complete Tzelem is a 4-layer Sephirotic mold, unique to each soul, corresponding to the soul's specific Partsuf origin established in Gate 15. 2 souls do not have identical Tzelems, any more than 2 souls have identical Partsuf origins. Each Tzelem is the precise Sephirotic signature of the soul that carries it. The body, when it is conceived in the womb of the mother, is formed around this Tzelem. The Tzelem precedes the body. The body is shaped to fit the Tzelem rather than the Tzelem to fit the body. This is why each human form, however much it resembles other human forms in its general structure, is precisely individual in its details, because each Tzelem is precisely individual, and the body is the material expression of a particular spiritual mold. Tzelem notzar biyiridat hanefesh derech arba'ah. Olamot the Tzelem is formed during the soul's descent through the 4 worlds. Each layer of the Tzelem contains within it the full Sephirotic structure of its corresponding world, 10 Sefirot, each with its inner and surrounding light components, doubled into 5 inner and 5 surrounding aspects. The Tzelem is not simple. It is a complete miniature cosmos, the entire structure of the 4 worlds compressed into the luminous form that the soul wears as it moves into incarnation. The Tzelem exists at 3 principal grades, corresponding to the 3 lowest soul levels, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, established in Gate 15. The Nefesh Tzelem is the innermost layer, the etheric body closest to the physical form. It never departs from the body during life. It is the constant companion of the flesh, the spiritual double that maintains the soul's connection to its material instrument from conception to death. When the Nefesh Tzelem fails, the body fails with it. The Ruach Tzelem is the second layer, more subtle than the Nefesh Tzelem and not bound to the body in the same way. During sleep, the Ruach Tzelem can depart to the world of Yetzirah, returning before the body wakes. This is the astral body of the comparative traditions, the vehicle by which the soul can travel beyond the physical form while still maintaining the body's life. The Neshama Tzelem is the 3rd and highest layer, the outermost. During sleep, the Neshama Tzelem can ascend to the world of Beriah, and even higher. It is the higher mental body, the vehicle by which the soul receives the most refined spiritual communications. 3 grades layered like garments, one within the other. Each grade contains 10 parts corresponding to the 10 Sefirot of its world. Together they constitute the complete Tzelem architecture through which the soul operates at every level of waking, sleeping, dreaming, and prophetic life. The Tzelem occupies the same space as the body. It is not separated from it, not located in some other dimension or distant place. It interpenetrates the physical form, the spiritual structure within and around which the material body has been built. The Tzelem extends slightly beyond the boundaries of the physical form. The aura that some traditions speak of, visible to those who can see it, is the outermost layer of the Tzelem extending into the space immediately surrounding the body. The colors and density of this projection vary according to the spiritual state of the soul that wears the Tzelem. The Tzelem is luminous. It has color, structure, intensity. It is more or less dense, more or less bright, more or less coherent depending on the spiritual condition of its bearer. A soul deeply engaged with holiness develops a Tzelem of clear, bright, intense light. A soul deeply enmeshed in the Kelipot develops a Tzelem that is dim, clouded, distorted. The Tzelem records the spiritual life of its bearer continuously, becoming the visible, to those who can see, manifestation of the invisible inner condition. This is the structural basis of the doctrine that the Arizal, Rabbi Isaac Luria himself, could diagnose souls. He could see the Tzelem. He could read its colors and its structure. He knew, from the appearance of the Tzelem, the Partsif origin of the soul, the Gilgalim it had passed through, the rectifications it had completed, and the rectifications it still needed. The diagnostic work for which the Arizal was famous was not personal magic or psychic gift. It was the application of the doctrine. The Tzelem is visible, and what is visible can be read. During sleep, the soul partially separates from the body. The body remains in the bed. The soul, through its Tzelem, travels. The Nefesh Tzelem does not depart. It remains with the body, maintaining its life. Were the Nefesh Tzelem to depart entirely, the body would die, and this is the structural basis of the rabbinic teaching that sleep is 1/60th of death. The Nefesh stays. But the Ruach Tzelem and the Neshama Tzelem ascend, traveling to the higher worlds and returning before the body wakes. The Ruach Tzelem ascends to the world of Yetzirah, the world of formation and angels. It moves through the spiritual landscape of that world, encountering its inhabitants, learning from its structures, receiving impressions that will become the content of dreams. The Neshama Tzelem can ascend higher still to the world of Beriah, and in the case of the most exalted souls, even to the world of Atzilut. What the Tzelem encounters during these ascents is real. It is not imagination. It is travel through the same cosmological structure that Gate 16 mapped, by means of the same Tzelem vehicle through which the soul descended at conception. The mystics of the Lurianic tradition spoke of these journeys as their primary mode of spiritual exploration. The body slept, the soul went visiting. Bashaina, Hatzelem, Olederech Arbara, Olamot, in sleep. The Tzelem ascends through the four worlds. Upon waking, the Tzelem returns. What it has experienced may or may not be remembered. Most of what occurs in the spiritual worlds during sleep is lost in the transition back to waking awareness. But some traces remain, and these traces are what we call dreams. Not all dreams are the same. The Lurianic tradition distinguishes 5 levels of dream, corresponding to the 5 soul levels and the 5 Tzelem grades. The highest level is the Chaya dream, originating from the soul's ascent to Atzilut. These are the dreams of classical biblical prophecy, the dreams of Jacob seeing the ladder, of Joseph receiving his prophetic visions, of Pharaoh receiving messages he could not himself interpret. Such dreams are extraordinarily rare in the post-prophetic age. The next level is the Neshama dream, originating from the soul's ascent to Beriah. These are the dreams of the Spirit of Holiness, Shalom Bevehinat Ruach HaKodesh, not full prophecy, but genuine spiritual communication received from the higher worlds. The dreamer wakes, knowing something they did not know before, and knowing it not from any waking source. Below this is the Ruach dream, the ordinary, significant dream that comes from the soul's ascent to Yetzirah. Most dreams of insight, of warning, of guidance fall into this category. The dreamer encounters something real, an angelic communication, a glimpse of a future state, a reflection of a hidden truth, but at a level less exalted than the Neshama dream. Below this is the Nefesh dream, the dream that arises from the soul's interaction with Asiya while the body sleeps. These are the ordinary dreams of daily life, fragments of memory, processing of recent experience, working through of unresolved emotion. They have spiritual content but are mostly mixed with the dreamer's own material. And below all these, the Kelipot dream, the dream that arises from the Sitra Achra's interference with the soul during sleep. Nightmares of fear, dreams of forbidden things, dreams that disturb and confuse. These are not prophetic communications, but interferences from the realm of the Kelipot. They have meaning, but the meaning is diagnostic of the dreamer's spiritual condition, rather than communicative of higher truth. Prophecy is the highest function of the Tzelem. In the prophetic state, the Tzelem ascends to its uppermost reach, to the Chaya level in Atzilut, or in the most exalted cases to the Yechida in Adam Kadmon itself. and receives impressions of divine reality that are then transmitted downward through the soul levels to the prophet's conscious awareness. Different prophets experience different modes of prophetic vision corresponding to different levels of Tzelem ascent. Moses, the chief of the prophets, achieved a level no other prophet reached. The direct vision face to face, the unmediated reception in which the Tzelem touched the source itself. Lesser prophets receive their visions through angelic mediation, through intermediate Sefirot, through dream states or trance states in which the body was less fully awake. The decline of prophecy in later Jewish history is, in the Lurianic account, not a withdrawal of the divine but a coarsening of the Tzelem at the collective level. The Tzelems of the people grew opaque, the vehicles of reception became cluttered. The Messianic era, the tradition teaches, will restore the Tzelems to their original transparency, and prophecy will return as the natural mode of human communication with the divine. The Arizal himself stood at the edge of this restoration. His diagnostic abilities, his readings of souls, his communications with the souls of departed sages, all of these operated through the Tzelem vehicle in ways that approximated the prophetic state without claiming the title of prophecy. He was a Lurianic seer in the precise technical sense, one whose Tzelem operated at levels that ordinary souls' Tzelems do not reach. The aura is the visible manifestation of the Tzelem. It is not a separate phenomenon. It is the luminous protrusion of the Tzelem extending beyond the boundaries of the physical body, visible to those whose perception has been trained or whose spiritual condition permits it. The aura has color. The color corresponds to the world level at which the soul is operating. A soul fundamentally bound to Asiya, the world of action, manifests a Tzelem that appears predominantly black or dark, not because the soul is evil, but because Asiya is the world of maximum concealment, and the Tzelem operating at that level reflects that concealment in its appearance. A soul operating at the level of Yetzirah, the world of formation, manifests a Tzelem that appears predominantly red, the color of emotion, of speech, of the burning seraphim who inhabit that world. A soul operating at Beriah, the world of creation, manifests a Tzelem that appears white, the color of pure cognition, of the Chayot HaKodesh, who serve before the throne. A soul operating at Atzilut manifests a Tzelem of brilliant light, almost too radiant to be seen, the level at which the soul approaches the source. Ha'ura, Jakawi, Havlata, Zoheret Shel, Hatzelem the aura, the luminous protrusion of the Tzelem. Blemishes in the aura mark the soul's unrepaired deficiencies. A soul that has not yet rectified a particular flaw will display, in its Tzelem, a corresponding distortion or darkness in the relevant location. The Arizal could read these blemishes. He knew, from the appearance of the Tzelem, what Gilgalim a soul had passed through, what tikkunim it had achieved, and what work remained. This diagnostic capacity was not magical and not personal. It was the application of the doctrine. The Tzelem records the spiritual condition. The aura makes the Tzelem visible. Anyone whose perception has been refined to the level at which the aura becomes visible can, in principle, read what the Tzelem records. The Arizal's gift was the development of this perception to an extraordinary degree. At the moment of death, the soul releases the body, but the Tzelem does not dissolve immediately. It accompanies the soul into the afterlife, into the supernal realms, carrying with it the entire record of the life just completed. The Tzelem's dissolution is gradual, mirroring the body's decomposition. The Neshama Tzelem and the Ruach Tzelem rise with the higher soul levels into the worlds of Beriah and Yetzirah, where they participate in the soul's post-mortem journey. The Nefesh Tzelem remains with the body for some time, gradually dissolving as the body decomposes. The two processes are not separate. The visible decomposition of the flesh is the material correlate of an invisible spiritual dissolution. The tzaddikim, the righteous, Those whose lives have been turned consistently toward holiness develop Tzelems of high luminosity. These Tzelems do not dissolve quickly. The bodies of the tzaddikim are preserved beyond the ordinary rate of decomposition, sometimes for very long periods, because the luminous Tzelem that surrounds them resists dissolution. The wicked, those whose lives have been turned consistently toward the Kelipot, develop Tzelems of dim, distorted, parasitic structure. These Tzelems dissolve rapidly, and the bodies of the wicked decompose with corresponding rapidity. The nefesh remains near the grave, guarding the bones. This is the structural basis of the traditional Jewish reverence for the burial site, not superstition, but the recognition that the nefesh has not yet entirely departed, and that the place of burial is a real location of the residual soul presence. Burial in the land of Israel is considered preferable in the Lurianic tradition because the spiritual conditions of the land preserve the nefesh and the Tzelem more effectively than burial in other locations. Ibur of the Tzelem can occur, the attachment of another soul's Tzelem to a living person, the temporary cohabitation of two Tzelems in one body. For the purpose of completing rectifications, the deceased soul had not finished in its own lifetime. This is a distinct phenomenon from Gilgul, the reincarnation of a soul in a new body. In Ibur, the deceased soul does not return to a new body of its own. It attaches its Tzelem to a living soul for a particular purpose, then departs when the purpose has been completed. The doctrine of resurrection is the final teaching of Gate 18. The Lurianic account of resurrection is precise. At the end of cosmic history, when the work of Tikkun is complete, the bodies of the dead will be rebuilt from a preserved spiritual template. The template is the Tzelem. The Tzelem survives death even when the body has fully decomposed. It exists in the supernal realms, holding the precise Sephirotic form of the body that was. At the moment of resurrection, the Tzelem will descend again, and the body will be reconstituted around it, from the same mold from which it was originally formed. But there is a physical anchor. The tradition teaches the existence of the loose bone, an indestructible physical seed that survives all forms of bodily decomposition. The Talmud at Sanhedrin 91 teaches that even the river of fire, Nehar Dinur, cannot soften the loose bone. It is the seed from which the resurrected body will be rebuilt, the physical anchor to which the descending Tzelem will reattach. Ha-Luz, Zira Ha-Techia, the loose, the seed of resurrection. The descending light of resurrection is called Tal, the dew. It is the light of Atik Yomin, emerging from the Golgotha of Arish Anpin, the source we received in Gate 10. This is why the doctrine of the Tzelem completes the great arc of the Lurianic system. It connects the beginning, the Tzimtzum of Gate 2, the first divine self-concealment that made creation possible, through the middle, the cosmology of Gates 3 through 16, to the end, the resurrection that restores all to their source. The resurrected body will not be the physical body we now inhabit. It will be a spiritual body, operating at the level of Beria or Yetzirah, a body of light rather than flesh, formed from the Tzelem template, but at a higher level of refinement than the original physical form. The Messianic era completes the work that the Tzimtzum began. The concealment that made creation possible is undone. The shells expire. The sparks return. The Tzelems descend to rebuild the bodies of the dead. And what stands at the end is not the world that existed before creation, but the world that creation was always for. A finite cosmos fully transparent to its infinite source, with finite beings fully restored to their original communion. Gate 18 has given the complete Lurianic doctrine of the Tzelem. We've traced its scriptural anchors in Genesis and Psalms, its formation as a Sephirotic mold during the soul's descent, its three grades corresponding to Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. We have learned that the Tzelem is the bridge between soul and body, the vehicle through which the soul operates in sleep, dream, and prophecy, and the visible structure that the aura makes available to perception. We have followed the Tzelem through death, watching it dissolve gradually with the body it shaped, holding its luminous record even as the flesh decomposes. And we have arrived at the doctrine of resurrection, where the Tzelem becomes the template from which the body will one day be rebuilt, anchored to the indestructible seed of the loose bone, drawn down by the dew of Atik Yomin. The Tzelem is the bridge of all bridges in the Lurianic system. It stands between the divine worlds and the physical body, between soul and flesh, between death and resurrection, between sleep and waking, between the prophetic ascent and the daily return. Every mystical practice in the Lurianic system operates through it. It is the soul's working surface in the world. It is the form by which we are recognized in the higher worlds. It is the record we carry. It is the template from which we will be rebuilt. Naase Adam b'Tzelmenu kidemutenu, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. This has been Gate 18, the Gate of the Image, from the Etz Chaim. Gate 19 follows. Sha'ar HaKavanot, the Gate of the Intentions. Kavanah as the highest form of divine service, the theurgic mechanics of intentional prayer, and the precise Sephirotic operations performed by the Lurianic Kabbalah across the daily liturgy. The Etz Chaim is translated from the Warsaw 1891 edition, digitized by HebrewBooks.org. The complete 5-volume English translation is available from Threshold Press at thresholdpress.com. Translation by L.L. Featheringill. Channel work at thresholdpress.com. Subscribe for the rest of the series.